Welcome to History for Nap Time. Tonight we travel back to a world of flickering torches and echoing halls, a world where kings dined by candlelight, monks whispered blessings over bread, and even the humblest families found warmth in a bowl of soup shared before sleep. In medieval Europe, night was not only for rest, it was for feasting. But these were no ordinary dinners. They were moments of ceremony, devotion, excess, and sometimes quiet survival. So let your mind drift through the centuries, through the kitchens, the laughter, the shadows of stone halls, and discover how people truly ate, celebrated, and lived when the sun went down. The castle stands on a hill, its grey stones breathing the last warmth of the day. Inside, the great hall lies quiet. Servants move like shadows, setting long wooden tables with pewter cups and rough-hewn plates. The air smells faintly of smoke and rushes. Bundles of herbs and straw scattered across the floor to keep the scent of damp stone away. Candles are lit one by one until the walls seem to shimmer with gold. The flicker of the flames dances across the tapestries. Stories of saints and battles woven in wool and silk. For hours the kitchen below has been alive with sound. Iron pots have rattled over open fires, spits have turned slowly, and the scent of roasting meat has filled the air. Now, above, the hall waits, calm, expectant, for the company to arrive. When they do, the stillness breaks. Boots echo, voices rise, and laughter spills across the stone floor. The night has begun. The feast begins not with food, but with ritual. No one sits before the Lord does. A herald calls out his name, the room falls silent, and the highest-ranking guests take their places beside him. The table gleams with simple beauty. Trenchers of stale bread that will serve as plates, a pitcher of watered wine, and dishes steaming faintly in the candlelight. The first course arrives, roasted fowl seasoned with herbs and garlic. The scent is rich, and the air grows heavy with it. A servant steps forward with a basin of warm water, so each guest may wash their hands, a small luxury in a world without forks. The Lord tears the first piece of meat, tastes it, and nods. Only then does the hall begin to eat. The noise swells, the soft rhythm of knives scraping wood, the murmur of voices, the sound of bread being broken. At the head of the hall, musicians begin to play. The melody is gentle, almost hypnotic, as if reminding everyone that feasting is not hunger. It is ceremony. Below the great hall lies another world entirely. The kitchens are hot, loud, and alive with movement. Smoke curls through the rafters as cooks shout orders over the crackle of fires. A boy turns a heavy iron spit where a boar rotates slowly, its skin glistening. Beside him, a woman stirs a cauldron of pottage, a thick stew of barley, leeks, and whatever scraps remain from the day. The air is thick with smells, meat and onions, vinegar and herbs, the faint sweetness of baked pears. Everything is cooked by hand, stirred by wooden spoon, tasted by instinct. Outside the kitchen door, dogs linger in the cold, waiting for scraps. A servant steps out and tosses them bones. The dogs fight quietly, tails wagging in the torchlight. Upstairs, the laughter of nobles sounds distant, almost unreal. Here in the kitchens, the feast is labour, sweat and smoke and sleeplessness. And yet the cooks smile. Tomorrow, the hall will remember their work in stories of how fine the meal was. Not far from the castle, in a village surrounded by fields, another dinner begins. There is no ceremony here, no silver cups or roasted boar, only a clay pot hanging over a fire. Inside, cabbage simmers with onions and a few pieces of salted pork, the week's small indulgence. A woman stirs it slowly, humming to herself. Children sit close to the fire, holding pieces of coarse bread to warm them before dipping into the pot. Outside, the night air smells of damp soil and smoke. A dog curls near the doorway. The wind moves softly through the cracks in the thatched roof. When the food is ready, everyone eats from the same bowl. There are no courses, no servants, only warmth and quiet conversation. And yet, in their small home, surrounded by darkness and stars, there is comfort. For the villagers, the night meal is not a luxury. It is survival, a reminder that another day has passed and that tomorrow, if the weather holds, they will rise again. In a monastery on the edge of a forest, bells ring softly through the night. The monks have prayed since dusk. Now, after hours of silence, they gather in the refectory, their dining hall. Long wooden tables stretch beneath vaulted arches. Each monk stands behind his place, hands folded. A single candle flickers at the end of the hall. There is no music, no laughter. A reader stands before the group, opening a small book, and begins to read aloud. A sermon or a story of the saints. Only when the reading begins do the monks sit. Their meal is plain: bread, cheese, lentils, sometimes a piece of dried fish. But every bite is taken in silence. The only sounds are the creak of benches and the soft scrape of spoons. When the meal is done, they rise together, bow their heads, and whisper a prayer of thanks. For them, eating is not pleasure. It is humility, a way to nourish the body so that the spirit may continue to serve. Far to the south, in a city of stone and trade, feasts take on another face. Here, merchants dine like princes, and food becomes a language of power. A table stretches the length of a hall, heavy with plates of roasted swan, spiced pies, and towers of sugared fruit. Golden candlesticks cast their glow on faces flushed with wine. Music plays. Dancers move between the tables. Laughter fills the air like incense. The guests wear bright fabrics, scarlet, emerald, and gold, colours that would cost a year's wages for a peasant. Each dish is meant not only to feed, but to impress. A roasted peacock, its feathers carefully reattached after cooking, gleams in the candlelight, a symbol of beauty, vanity, and wealth. At one end of the table a jester tells stories. At the other, a musician sings of kings and lovers. Between them, the guests drink and boast and forget the world outside. For one night, hunger, sickness, and death seem far away. But the feast always ends, and when the candles burn low, the silence that returns is almost heavy enough to taste. In the royal court, dinner is not a meal. It is a stage. The hall is vast, lined with banners and guarded by soldiers. Every gesture matters. Every word carries meaning. The king sits at the high table, his cloak heavy with embroidery. Beside him, the queen, her jewels catching the light with every small movement. Servants move like a quiet tide, carrying platters of meat, bowls of stewed fruit, and goblets of wine. Each course arrives in order: soup, fish, meat, sweets, each with its own rhythm, its own pause for conversation. The guests know they are being watched. Every glance, every sip of wine is part of the performance. The musicians play softly. The smell of roasted pheasant fills the room. Somewhere behind the dais, a poet rehearses verses he will recite before dessert. The king lifts his cup. Everyone rises. "To peace," he says, though everyone knows war may come before spring. The toast echoes across the hall. For a moment it feels true. The feast has ended. The guests have left. Only a few candles remain, their flames trembling in the draughts of the great hall. But down in the kitchen the night is not over. Servants sit near the fire, eating what remains. Bits of bread, pieces of cheese, the last of the stew. They speak quietly, their laughter soft, their eyes heavy with sleep. Outside, the courtyard lies silent. The stars shine above the towers. A dog barks once, then stops. One of the cooks wipes the table clean, blows out a candle and sighs. Another feeds the fire so that the embers will still glow come morning. In these small, quiet hours, the castle feels almost human, tired, content, alive with the faint smell of smoke and bread. Not all feasts are planned. Sometimes a knock comes at the gate long after dark, a traveller seeking shelter from the rain. The porter hesitates, then opens the door. The traveller is soaked, his cloak dripping onto the stone. He bows, says little, and asks for warmth. The Lord allows it. Hospitality is sacred. Soon the stranger sits by the fire, wrapped in a blanket, a bowl of stew in his hands. The hall is mostly empty now, only the servants moving in the shadows. They watch him eat, slow, grateful bites, as though each taste brings him back from the edge of hunger. When he finishes, he thanks them and rests his head against the hearth. By dawn, he is gone. No one knows his name. But for one night, he was part of their story. A reminder that even in the age of kings, every feast begins with kindness. The night deepens. In every hall and village the fires burn low. Servants sweep the floors, monks fold their hands, peasants bank their hearths. The smell of smoke lingers. The the echo of laughter fades. Soon, only silence remains. The kind of silence that feels ancient and gentle. In that quiet you can almost hear it. The faint clink of cups, the murmur of prayers, the sound of someone tearing bread in the dark. Centuries have passed, yet the memory of those dinners remains. Warm rooms against the cold, full tables against the hunger outside. For the people of medieval Europe, the feast was never just food. It was a promise that even in the hardest times, life could still offer light and company and the comfort of a meal shared beneath the same roof. And so, as you close your eyes tonight, imagine the soft glow of candles and the hush that follows when the last flame dies. Another night has ended. The hall grows still, and somewhere in history the feast begins again.